Hey guys, we are pleased to say that we are associated with the Sophie Lancaster Foundation charity. And now, a message from one of our supporters.
Hi, I'm Manny Malpass, Metalhead from BBC Two's The Ranganation. Thank you so much for the work you do in the Sophie Lancaster Foundation. As someone that grew up different and was drawn to this community because I was different, the work that you do to combat bullying and to prevent prejudice for people like us, just because of the way we look, is invaluable. Every time somebody donates or raises funds for the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, they're working to ensure that nobody ever has to suffer again. I'm very, very proud to have been able to donate to it in the past, and I hope you continue the work you're doing far, far into the future. Thank you so much.
To learn more about this wonderful charity, head on over to www.sophielancasterfoundation.com.
Hey Jamie, do you like being cozy?
I do.
And do you like staying cozy?
I like that even more.
Then just heading over to www.staycozyclothing.com,
where you can find hoodies, tees, sweaters, and much, much more, with a new fall line out now.
And just enter The Chronicles as one word at checkout to receive 10% off your order.
And make sure you follow them on the Instagram at Stay Cozy Clothing to keep up to date with all the new designs.
Remember, guys, that's The Chronicles as one word at checkout to receive 10% off your order. Record.
I am.
Oh, wait, I have to click the continue button. All right. I like that when they say that it's recording, they give you a get the fuck out option. They're like, they're about to record. Get the fuck out. My wife just said, Adam, you're cursing.
Oh, we all do. It's fine.
They're grown-ups. These are two. So I do drink a gratuitous amount of coffee once a day. And so I drink it out of this bucket. It's American measurements, it's 16 ounces.
Holy fuck.
Which is like, two cups of coffee and a little milk. But it is only 12 o'clock and it's my first one. It's been a busy day already. So.
I'm not surprised with everything you've done from all the research, haven't you? You must be like, as soon as you drink, you're like, right, I'm going to do it. 15, it's got absolutely mental. It's like, I've written 15 songs. I've composed this. I've written that. Here you go, everybody. You ahead.
It sometimes feels that way. Well, I get up so early with the kids to make their lunches and stuff like that, and then my wife hits the ground running. So between the two of us, we have three, and it's kind of wild. By the time I actually sit down to write, it's probably like 9 a.m. And then if I have calls and other stuff going on, I don't really get to make a first cup until now 11 or 12.
Your first jug.
Yeah. the first barrel. Okay.
Oh, right.
It is so worth it. So thanks so much for having me today. I was super stoked to get your request and to find out that people give a damn about what I'm doing is kind of wild, and I'm happy to be here.
Well,
thank you for doing it.
Yeah, 100%, Adam. We really appreciate it massively. It's always nice because obviously, most people these days, especially after COVID, are like, "Oh yeah, of course I'll come on. It'll cost $150 for an hour. It'll cost you, $1 grand." And they're like, "Whoa, hang on, what?" We're just two British guys, like just how we just did this. We did it for fun. We do it because we enjoy it. We just like to chat to people, meet people, make friends, that sort of thing. It's just for a bit of a laugh.
I did have a quote once, wasn't it? It was like $350 for an hour or $350 for half an hour, something like that. It was ridiculous.
No, really?
Yeah.
Who was it? Well, you probably can't say. But
I know, I'll happily say. Fucking, it was one half of the Bushwhackers, like the old wrestling tag team. Yeah.
Weird. Well, they probably need the money more than anybody right now. Is wrestling even a thing? I know I've got some friends that watch, but I didn't even know that was still happening. Last time I watched wrestling, it was like Jimmy the Meat Man Snake Boy versus I don't even know what their names are, and Hulk Hogan or something. In fact, I think that Andre the Giant was still alive when I watched wrestling last.
Wow.
So it's been a minute, but Hulk
Hogan's definitely a thing. I don't think I've ever heard of Jimmy the Meat Man Snake Boy though.
That's what I would have called myself that if I was random string of nouns and verbs, and that's how you come up with your rest of your name.
Just change it every week.
Totally.
Oh, right. So what we normally do with these things is I do a little intro, and then, as Tom likes to say, we throw a fuck ton of questions at you. How does that sound?
Cool. All right.
Beautiful.
Like bombard you, Adam. Like you're gonna be like, Jesus Christ, guys, you just calm it down a little bit. What's going on here?
I'm still on my first bucket of coffee of the day.
And you can't embarrass me. So there's no way to do anything that would offend me. So hit me with everything. Let's do it.
Beautiful.
Let's go.
Hello, everybody. Today we have another fantastic guest with us, a man who has written and performed scores for movies, theme parks, and over 1,000 video games. And I'm sure there's tons more that I haven't even found. And he's even produced a song that went on to win a Grammy Award. Here to tell his story and how he creates such magic, we welcome you to the Chronicles of Adam Gubman.
That was so fancy. What a fancy intro.
Well, thank you.
Did some research.
Yeah, absolutely. He likes that's what he likes to do. You see, that's to butter you up, Adam. He has to, like, lure you into a false sense of security. I was like, yeah. It's like, come on, just come join us. Come on, it's okay, nothing's gonna happen here, right?
I just breathe into the pain. I'll take it, whatever you like. I don't even know. I mean, that list is wild. It sounds crazy, but yeah, I guess I did a couple. I've done a couple things over the years, and I'm really happy to be doing this job. And the credits are a thing, but I love that I can wake up every day and write music. And it's I've worked my ass off to get here. There's no luck. There's a little luck. There's a little luck, but I've always had the work ethic that makes me want to grind. Do that 6 a.m. get up and do the early morning calls and do the podcasts and meet folks and go out and get drinks, which, I mean, that's terrible, right? Drinking scotch, who doesn't like that? But anything that I can do to further my career, I've done with fervor and excitement, and embraced it all as just part of the machine that runs the industry. I love it all. So, I always tell people, make no mistake about it. This is literally a 7-day-a-week gig. And it's been that way for me for 20 something years. I'm 42. So I've been doing this somewhat professionally since I was 19 or 20. And all those years, it's been a consistent flow of work ethic and lots of ups and downs, of course, and lots of no's and missed opportunities because I just simply wasn't paying attention but yeah, it's been grueling, and I'm thrilled that people still call me. So that's a good thing, I think.
Well, I think fate you always find your way, don't you, no matter what. I truly believe that everyone's got a path or whatnot, and if it's meant to be, it will be, so yeah. But let's get to a hard hit. Let's start with the hard hitter. Adam, how has your last 18 months been? How has your pandemic season been?
Oh man. Well, besides me wanting to kill my children every day, and I mean, it's been good and it's been bad. Like, there's been times when I've been like, oh my God, I'm so happy to have everybody here. And other times I'm like, get the fuck out of my studio, and I slam the door. And I'm like, even you dogs and you cats, nobody's in here. And I kick everybody out. And that's fun. I got a little fat, and then I got skinny, but I think we all did that, right? We all put on our COVID-15. Got lonely. And you get lonely even when you're surrounded by people, because the loneliness comes from talking to people you don't know. It's really interesting to me too, is I've discovered that I love my family and I love having them here, but I also love meeting new people, and I love being put into situations where I'm really uncomfortable, because it forces me to do perform like I do all the time. But I did learn real quick that a lot of my loneliness was coming from just not seeing industry friends and not seeing my family. I went 6 months without hugging my mom. That's weird, right? That's a long time.
Yeah.
And that kind of sucked. But, as the world sort of came to its senses and came around, all that started to come back. But work-wise, I didn't pick up any weird hobbies. People did the cooking bread. or baking bread. Or like, no, I take that back. Me and my assistant who lived here for a minute, we tried to make kombucha a few times, and I thought I died once, but it was, and then we stopped. What? Kombucha. It's like fermented tea. Have you never had kombucha? Maybe it's like a bougie LA thing, but they take like a tea, and see, that's one surprise you don't have it, because in the UK it's a tea-based drink. So I assume that you would. And they use a bacterial culture to ferment it like an ale. Well, not like an ale, but like any sort of bubbly that's based off of fermented something. So you put sugar in the tea, and you put the culture in there, and it ferments for a couple of weeks, and you get this mildly alcoholic, refreshing, probiotic beverage that is coveted by yogis everywhere, apparently. And it's really quite delicious, but it's a major pain in the ass to make. So we stopped doing that after one batch. But yeah, question? You've been raising your hand? I know.
Yeah. It's absolutely fine. I say you died.
I felt like we died. Like the last batch we made was pretty rancid, and it made me pretty ill. So and we decided not to do it after that. And I tried to drink a couple of them, but so that was how my COVID was. Aside from that, we really learned how to navigate the industry in sort of a new way through like the remote recording thing, and reaching out and connecting with folks that were willing to do what we were doing before in bigger studios, but in a remote capacity. So for us, my business partner, Alex Cox, and we work remotely anyway. They live in Oakland. I live in LA. So, Orange County. So for us, we've always been split. We've always had meetings over Slack. Our clients are international, so we've always met with folks that way. But what we hadn't really done before is set ourselves in the forefront of being able to produce AAA quality work remotely entirely. So clients of mine like Blizzard and Disney, we went from going to, a big studio in LA to recording singers one at a time for Hearthstone, and getting like this, 40-person choral sound with one singer recording their individual parts, and then another singer recording their individual parts, and then me piecing it all together. So a lot of the stuff that fans of Hearthstone, for example, have heard over the past year have been almost entirely recorded remotely. Vocalists, musicians, everything. I think my guitar player has come over here twice in the past 18 months to record, and that's only been recently. I've had one vocalist come over in the past 18 months to do a demo for Disney. And aside from that, now, we kind of love recording remotely. I don't have to go anywhere. It gives me more time with my kids, and it allows me to kind of be creative, and musicians love it too, because they don't have to show up an hour early or half an hour early, or drive from East LA to West LA, which is really an hour and a half, crazy sometimes, just halfway across town, to go and play for 20 minutes. They can do 30 minutes of playing in their home and make almost as much as they're making doing union work. But never have to leave. And we all do it in our underwear. Oh, you didn't know that was coming, Tom? I think that's the most cliche COVID joke. I'm not in my underwear now, but I will tell you, I've worn like these board shorts. I think I wear them 5 days a week now. And I do wash them once or twice a week, but like, I haven't even put on jeans in a minute. Like I don't know. I used to love clothes. I just don't do it.
It's so funny because I live in shorts too, but I'm now not wearing them. I'm wearing different shorts because my other half was like, "You've lived in those for months. Can you please take them off? Please wash them. I'm sick of seeing you in them."
Okay. I only just recently started buying clothes again, and it's weird too because we go out to conferences, we go to like the studio dates, and we travel, all over the U.S. Meeting clients and stuff, and I'd be buying new clothes, every 2 or 3 months. Oh, I need a new shirt. I need this. They saw me in this. I got to wear new. But now it's like, whatever. I got the same fucking white t-shirt on. And at least I comb my hair for you guys.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
That's a major win. It's the most I usually wear a baseball cap. So it's like when my wife saw me doing my hair this morning, she's like, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm talking to these guys." She's like, "Who are they? Why are you doing your hair for them? Are they prettier than me?"
Wow.
No. Definitely not.
So, Adam, take us back. When growing up, what was the plan for young Master Gubman, as I like to say? Was it always music?
I mean, always, honestly, always. Everything I've ever done in my life, I've prepared myself for my career, because I knew from like 7 or 8 that I loved making music. Actually, really what it is it's storytelling. I love telling stories. So I would come up with characters, and the songs would support those characters. And I was writing lyrics from a really young age, like I think 11 or 12. And I was writing poetry before that. Really, really fascinated by other influential storytellers of my youth, Jim Henson and Alan Menken, and of course, later on, Stephen Schwartz, and of course, Stephen Sondheim. Some of the more indie animators of the time, like Plimpton and Don Bluth films, and all these movies that sort of edged between the joviality of youth and finding your dreams, and then a really dark conflict. Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, Secret of Nim, like I mentioned before. Even Tom Sawyer, the 70s version with the score by John Williams that had wonderful songs. All of that media back then told very mature storylines, and I was fascinated, and I love that dichotomy of having something. It's like Ben Folds says, he goes, my music is so beautiful, he said, that I can write a love song and say fucking it and it's okay. And that's kind of like how I feel about all of those early 80s animation movies and Jim Henson films, is that they pushed the limit of what was acceptable. And we went through a long period after that in the mid to late 90s until almost till now, where children's programming and slightly older children's programming became so saccharine and watered down that there was nothing, like there was no life lessons, no substance to it. I mean, you look at things like Blue's Clues, and it's cute and it's fun and it's like, let's go, but it does. I mean, it still gives you a really jaded, protected view of the world. But when we were kids, stories like The Secret of Nim, where you see a young, and I know it's a mouse representing that, but a young person's home being destroyed and their father had passed. And then mom has to gather up her children and get the neighbors to help them move before they all get murdered. I mean, that's a fucking heavy storyline. Score by Jerry Goldsmith. And one of the most beautiful songs ever, Flying Dreams, in that movie also is still to this day one of my all-time favorite songs. But that set me up, man. That set me up. And I'll tell you what, Jamie, it's like when you are passionate about something, and whether it's football or bird watching or cooking or whatever, it becomes just part of the fabric of your nature. It's like really the Lego pieces that built my castle. It's really what it is. So there was never a time when I thought I wasn't going to do it. I know people around me were just like, all right, buddy, you go get your dreams. He's going to become a salesperson. He'll be teaching piano forever. He got a job at Jamba Juice. Maybe one day he'll own the franchise. It's like shit like that, right? Yeah. And I mean, and no shame in any of those jobs. I didn't mean to offend any Jamba Juice owners. I apologize. But it's funny because I did work for Jamba Juice, and I was like, I did some pretty bad things. I don't know if I can say it on this. I shouldn't say it here, but I was not the best.
Why?
Let me just say that if the till was over, sometimes some of the employees ended up with some extra cash. And to the owner of that Jamba Juice in Newport Beach, Joel, I'm sorry. I hope you're still with us. He might have passed. I don't know. It was a long time ago. But if you want that $12 back, I live in Ladera Ranch, and you know where to find me. Regardless, I put everything into it, and my parents paid for my lessons, and my grandparents paid for some of my music lessons. And in high school, I was producing bands and I was renting equipment, and my dad was helping me get connections to recording studios to record things. And I was making other friends that wanted to do what I wanted to do. And it's so interesting because a lot of those friends that I met, we all inspired each other so much that two of the guys I went to high school with that played on my very first album when I was 15 went off to have massive careers. One of my buddies, Kevin, went off to Broadway, and he starred in Les Mis for like, God, for forever, like 12 years as Marius. And then he did Ragtime and some other stuff. And oddly enough, now he lives in my neighborhood here. And then another friend of mine, Andy Dodd, who was my favorite guitar player when we were 15, went on to write a lot of the music for High School Musical and Cheetah Girls and Hannah Montana. And he had a massive career as a songwriter for Disney with his business partner. Now he's selling insurance, doesn't do that anymore, but he made all his money and retired because he was so fucking successful. So it's really wild that from our high school, those of us that were artistic were always in each other's, presence, trying to create and inspire and make cool shit. Because really at the heart of it, we weren't thinking about business. We were just thinking about making our art. And back then was the perfect time to do it, the perfect time to explore and to learn technology. My grandfather, God rest his soul, put me on a MIDI program called Deluxe Music Construction Set on the PC in 1984. And so from 1984, when I was 5 years old, I was already clicking in notes into the computer and discovering the joy of hearing back my own music. And to some degree, you do become a fan of yourself, because if you're not passionate enough to love the work you're doing and to also see the next steps and know where your deficiencies are and know how to grow from those, then I don't think it's really possible to have a career. All these folks that I have the pleasure and absolute honor of working with, Alan Menken, who I mentioned before, who I've done a handful of things with, Mark Scheinman, who I continue to collaborate with, Aarons and Flaherty, who I continue to collaborate with, Pasek and Paul, they all know the value of what they're bringing to the table. They're very passionate about their work, but they're also really kind folks that want to create this environment of sort of in the spirit of mutual creation. When I work with them, they don't micromanage, and when I'm not the guy running the ship, I do get to work with people that give me the autonomy to help them, increase the value in their work, which I feel like I try to do, and I see it as a very technical thing like that, as sort of like a side person that pops in to help support other people's careers. So yeah, man, I know that's a long way to answer your question. You guys thought you were going to talk more. I should have warned you.
No. We like this. People hear us talk all the bloody time.
All right. Well, fair enough. Yeah, I could never be, I could have never done anything else. I was really fortunate too, that my wife supported me. When she has 4 degrees, she's like really smart. Now she just stays at home and watches the kids well, I say that, but really what she is she's our family manager. So, she manages the 3 and the driving schedules and the house cleaning and everything in between, people's homework and dealing with the other parents and all of that. And she's really wonderful at that. So I can do what I do. And it's sort of like having a business partner. In fact, it is like having a business partner that grants me the ability to do what I do best, because we know that without each other, we could not manage this enterprise, right? So when we were younger, she did support me by buying my very first microphone for me that I still use now on some projects. And it's a Shure Ksm32, or no, it's a 44. And I love it. And I use it still on vocals and stuff. And she bought me one of my first computer rigs, and hopefully now I've paid her back, with lots of arguing and refusing to wear my undergarments and all those things. But aside from that,
pick up your underwear. No, I brought you a computer.
Well, then you get accused of doing it on purpose. Like, you left it there because you knew that I would pick it up. No, I didn't even know you were picking it up. In fact, I don't even think I knew I was leaving it there, because it's always gone, and I didn't know who was doing it. But I guess it's you. So that it does. It is a machine, and I've put all my energy into it, and that's the truth. That's the short answer.
That's the short answer. Wow.
Now we have time for one more question. And I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So at what point did you decide that you wanted to do this as a career then? Not just I like doing this as a thing, I'm going to make my living doing this.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was a time when I was in 8th grade, and we had this economy studies project. And the project was to create something and sell it, right? And so I was like, I'm going to make an album. Fuck this. I'm not going to, people are doing like, I'm going to make brownies, and I'm going to make a t-shirt. I was like, no, I'm going to get like some kids I know here and this was in Minnesota, which if you're not familiar with the geography of the United States, is right smack dab in the middle of the coldest part of the United States. So we have a lot of time there. I had a lot of time when I was a kid to just sort of hunker down and be creative. And I did it. And I did it with wild abandon for all of my winters that we lived there, from making movies in the basement with my sister to writing music. And I knew that this was another opportunity to do that. So I had a friend, his name was Ryan, and his dad was a broadcaster on the local NBC affiliate. And they had a recording studio in their basement. And I told Ryan what I wanted to do. And he was like, oh, my dad says you can borrow this 4-track, just take it home and learn how to use it. And this must have been like 1993, right? I'd never really used a 4-track recorder before. I was always just recording stuff on a normal cassette recorder back then. So I went home and I learned it and I started recording my songs. And then I was like, well, I'm going to add some violin to it. And so I called a violin player friend of mine. Then I called a cello player friend. And then we did a little guitar. And then we did some, just a variety of things. Anyways, cut to the chase. We printed out 100 copies of the cassette tape. And my mom and my dad and my grandfather all helped me record copy the cassette tape. And then my aunt gifted me with a cover that she drew by hand for it. And I photocopied that and printed it out. And we sold all 100 of them for $3 each. And at that point, I walk away with $300 in my pocket. And the teachers are like, what the fuck? You made more money on this than we made this week. And they were saying they were like, this is the most money we've ever seen any kid make at any of these events. And all I did was set up a little, science project looking trifold cardboard that said the name of the album. And I put pictures of everybody that played on it. And I put my picture and I put the song track listing. And at that point I was like, okay, so there are people that are interested in buying my music. And from there, my dad, got in contact with a record label in Minneapolis, and they're like, sure, we'll finish this record with him. So then we did a record out there. At that point, we had moved to California, but we still had the connections out there. And so from there, it was like, well, I don't see any other way. Like I'm just going to keep making and selling music. And I knew I wanted to get into video games, but I didn't know exactly. And I knew I wanted to do Disney. And then I knew I wanted to do animation. So there's all these things on my bucket list that I've started to check off over the years. Just sort of these little watershed moments of understanding and personal development where I've really enjoyed learning these new angles to the industry.
God damn.
That is nuts.
Adam, do you have any time to breathe or eat or live at all?
So, Tom, believe it or not, my workday is maybe 4.5 hours. I do 4.5 hours a day. I typically write about an hour of a minute of music fully produced within an hour. So some of my work days are a little longer, but if I can do 4 to 5 minutes of music a day, that's a massive day for me. My goal really though is 2 minutes a day, and I can maintain my lifestyle off of 2 or 3 minutes of music a day. And depending on the client, 1 minute of music could be anywhere between $1,000 and $5,000. So now the level of clients that we have, I don't really have to work as much all the time. Some days I'm working more, on crunch times like this. The past 6 weeks have been kind of insane. We've had a park expansion project for Disney that I can't really talk about yet. I'm working on a project for SeaWorld that I also can't talk about. And then a massive expansion for one of the games that I have been supporting. And then I've been working heavily on this other game for Blizzard that they've announced, but they haven't announced who's working on it. So I can't really announce that either. But all these projects have demanded a lot of my time lately. So the past 6 weeks have been a little wild, but today I'm done. I'm pretty much done for the day. Yesterday I've got everything under control. So yesterday I did maybe 4 hours, and then I put an hour in the afternoon just to answer some emails. But without my amazing business partner, none of that would be possible, because Alex really helps me steer the ship. And we do a lot of trade-offs on the email communication, and we do a lot of trade-offs on the invoicing, and we've managed to keep our business, which is Moonwalk Audio, fairly small. We have no desire to grow to be this, behemoth of a dinosaur company. We're making pretty good money, and we keep it manageable, and it allows us to be completely bespoke and still treat our clients personably and give them the attention that they need. And our rates have gone up because of it. So we charge more, but they get a better experience, and they know that everything they do, Alex or I or both of us will touch. We do have some contractors that work with us, and we involve them on a lot of projects in different capacities, like Joris and Kane. Joris has been working with me for almost 9 years now, and he's a very valued collaborator. We've put him in-house basically at Zynga, and so he's managing their projects and then also managing stuff for us over here. But he does a lot of production stuff for me on the side, so we've collaborated on a lot of different projects. But still, I'm working on those projects. And Kane is one of our co-writers and also our guitar player. One of our two guitar players, our other guitar player, Jeff, is playing on something like every 2 days for me. So the team that we've developed over here between our musicians, guys like Adam Alisi and vocalists like Gayatri, who's just a wonderful, Gayatri she gets called an ethnic vocalist sometimes, but she's really not just an ethnic vocalist. Her nationality is Indian, so she does traditional Indian music incredibly well, but she's really an ethnomusicologist at heart. So to have her on our auxiliary team has been absolutely invaluable, because what she brings to the table vocally and the musicians that she can contract for us is absolutely out of this world. And in fact, Gayatri is one of my favorite collaborators to work with on the Star Wars stuff for Disney, because she brings such a spirit of joy and youthfulness and experimentation and creativity. And that's what I try to approach all my work with. To me, it's never a chore and it's never heavy-handed. It's like, I have to write battle music. How much fun can I make this battle music? Even when you're like smashing heads, you should still have a glorious smile on your face and be petting bunnies all along the way. So with all this work I do, man, I absolutely am grateful for all my clients and our partner clients, whom we have developed some really wonderful long-term relationships with, and friendships that are worth more to me than the money that they pay us. It's wonderful to be able to work with people that you literally love and would do anything for. And our team is like that right now. So that's why we kept it small, because bringing people inside our sort of intimate fold of folks, we're really protective of this. Kane and Joris and Alex and Gayatri and some of our other singers that we hire, Baraka May and Holly Sedios, and these are our people. These are the people that are my ride or die industry friends, and my ride or die, like, I would show up in a minute for all of them if they needed me, because they've become family. I know who their parents are. I know, who their spouses or partners are. I know their children, we have relationships with them, like Baraka, and I send notes to her husband, Mark, all the time. And her daughter, Prim, is adorable. And she checks in on me, but she is like one of the top call vocalists in LA. Like, she has sung on literally every big movie. She was a soloist on the Lion King movie and all the Disney movies that come out now. And she works with the top folks, but I'm lucky enough to have her work for us. And she sings on almost every Hearthstone project we've ever done. The bigger Disney stuff, my Disney demos. Like, I could not run this business with my partner, Alex, without this crew of insanely talented collaborators.
Wow.
So how much creative input do you have then, as far as themes go with a project? Is it a case of the client telling you exactly what they want, or they're like, zombie game, go?
Yeah, it depends on the client. There was a meme that came out the other day that said like $500 client, and then it was a list of feedback, and it was like this micromanaging long ass paragraph of bullshit, and then it said $50,000 client. Great, we'll take mix B, and that's literally what it's like. So my bigger clients nowadays hire me because they know that they're going to get me. they don't hire me anymore to channel other people. Sometimes I still have to channel other folks, and we'll get temp music or music that's like inspirational music that they like for their project, whatever the project is. But then it's always our goal and the understanding that we're going to take that as like a portion of the ingredients of what we're trying to do. And then we're going to approach it with all the spirit and love that we do if we were writing for ourselves. So there is a degree of collaboration there, which we adore. And for example, audio director at Zynga, Chris Granner, and I have developed a really wonderful collaborative spirit where he can just plant some seeds and tell me, hey, like, this is what we're thinking for this. And then he'll say, go. And then I'll go and do something. He's like, man, I was hoping you'd come up with something like that. I have the same relationship with Anna Morgan at Blizzard, who is one of the top directors over there and directs all the Hearthstone cinematics and some of the other cinematics. And Anna and I always have a conversation where she goes, okay, I want you to be the best version of you can be. And here's some inspiration. Then I go and do it. And it's like, it always works out better when people give me a little longer leash. It's the micromanaging that becomes tricky. Some of our clients that we've been less successful with, and we're not successful all the time. We've fired clients, we've been fired off of projects. And usually that happens because of communication. Either I was an asshole and I try not to be, but it happens. We're all guilty of that. And it usually only happens when a client starts out being really difficult. And, and when I say asshole, I don't mean I'm like, fuck you guys. No, it's not like that. It's more like, I have to say, look, we've come to an impasse where we're not going to be able to proceed because communication just totally broke down. And we'll release you from your contract obligations, and they'll usually release us, and we move on. And that's totally fine because not every client is going to be an emotional fit. And this is a very emotional business, and it's still business, but it is very emotional and it's artistic and everybody has opinions. And so those opinions sometimes don't match up with your experience. And so for me, when I approach a project, I always have the conversation with developers and I say, okay, well, we have a certain amount of experience. We know that you've never made a game before, but you've made you've done other things in video games, but now this is your first game as this new company. It's in a genre you've never made. We've done, 12 dozen games in genre X. So let's advise you. And then sometimes they choose not to take any of your advice. And that's okay, because in my ego, I don't go, okay, well, you didn't take my advice. That's fine. But when they are never happy, sometimes it's like, okay, well, now that we've explored everything you've wanted to explore, can we have a shot to show you what we think it would sound like? And usually at that point, they're like, oh, we get it. So now what we do with clients like that are a little difficult is we just right off the bat opt to do a gratis demo. And we'll do 20 to 30 seconds just to give them a flavor of what their project is going to sound like. And if they hate it, they hate it, because ultimately we're at the mercy of the client. So, it is really whatever they want to do. And we're happy doing, authentic roots reggae or, country pop, whatever they ask us, we'll do it, or hire people to help us do it well. But we do love the autonomy. And when it happens, it's really a wonderful gift, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, when you first started out, the word has completely escaped my mind. Composing, that's what I'm trying to go for. So like for games or for TV or whatever, when you first started out, how would you approach companies that way then? Did you have to audition, I say, or would they post that and be like, oh, we want someone to make a minute or 2 minutes of this, and people just send shit in, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so a little bit of all of the above. I was contracting for a company back then that gave me a lot of credits. Well, not a lot of credits on paper, but they gave me a lot of gigs. And so I cut my teeth. The first game I did was a pirate game, and I did have to audition for that. And I auditioned for, 3 months, demos and the whole thing. And then I co-wrote that game with my buddy, Jeff. And we ended up ultimately doing 2 hours of music for that. That spilled into me working for this other company as a contractor for many years. I think I did almost 8 years with them. And over the course of that 8 years, I did close to 600 titles. They were telling everybody they had 40 composers in studios all around the world, when really it was me and one other guy that was writing all this music. So I was doing like 30 to 40 minutes of original music a month for various games. So I got pretty good at wearing different hats. Now, I still suck at a few, like electronica is not always my thing. That's why I need Joris, because Joris is so awesome at electronica. And he can step in and help fill in some of the gaps where I have issues. And like, I love doing like death metal, but I'll call Kane to help me arrange the guitars on the death metal stuff, because he's so fantastically talented at that. So, getting all the experience that I did when I was younger, through that company allowed me to be able to pitch to companies like Warner Chappell. And so I did a lot of albums with Warner Chappell that were in a variety of styles. And when they came to me, they're like, well, we already have trailer folks and we've got, guys that are doing epic stuff. What can you do? And I said, well, let me figure out where your needs are. And they needed comedy. And I was like, I love doing comedy. Let's do some really fucking weird shit. And they were Mormon, so I didn't say that. But I said, let's do some really different type of work. And they're like, well, what do you have in mind? And so we did like an 8-bit Christmas album. And we did this weird, like, sort of like swanky, hypersexual, like romantic cheese ball album. And we did a bunch of like kids licensing albums. So I think I did 12 or 13 records with them of all different flavors. And again, that was just expanding my experience. But that was another stepping stone for me, because Warner Chappell had the budget to record live stuff. And that was something that I had until that time, when I was around 27 or whatever, when I started working with them, not had that experience. And so now, they had big orchestras, and we were doing big orchestra and guitar and mixing in Utah and doing all that. And then I used those albums to help me get other gigs where I need. So, every single gig was a way for me to sort of leverage the experience to do something else. And now I'm able to finally sit where I want to, because the only thing that I've really ever really wanted to do, and that I get to do now, is write songs for games. And so I had been pitching myself to do that since my cat's screaming. Cricket.
What the market here?
Hey, fucking feed me. I'd been pitching myself as a songwriter for games since I first started, and Gamehouse gave me the first opportunity to do that in any game that I'd ever worked on. And it became such a hit to their fans that then they start, hi Panda, come here. And then they started incorporating songs. This is not my cat. This is my dog.
What a beauty.
Hello.
And he's a very sweet dog. And then there's the little dog who's like, fucker, me too. Me
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you acknowledge me, Daddy.
They're very good. He was a rescue, and he's just the sweetest boy. He doesn't like strangers all the time, but he's really just a lover. He'll like sit on your lap and want to cuddle all day. But anyway, so Gamehouse gave me opportunities, and then that led into us doing like 3 to 4 songs per game. And then an offshoot company of Gamehouse called Blue Giraffe told us that they wanted all their games to have like a full soundtrack of songs. So then we were doing the score to the games and all these songs. And that led into me writing songs for Disney, because I had met someone that worked for Disney and expressed my lifelong dream to them to be a songwriter for Disney. And then all of a sudden I was writing songs for Disney, and I've opened close to 20 shows with them. And I started out writing for Tokyo, and I did their 35th anniversary album, which was massive. That was just like such a huge project for them. And they still use that song. That was like 2017, 2018. But that song now showed up in the reopening for Disneyland Paris, which was a real honor that they reused that song for that. But my work is still in all those parks. And then that spilled over into me developing a relationship with Imagineering to write songs. And I was lucky enough to be able to work on the first ever Baymax ride, which opened in Tokyo last year. And in the middle of that, I was writing songs for Star Wars Galaxy Edge for the Cantina, with a lot of other wonderful songwriters and composers that worked on that project. I was not the only one on the Star Wars project. There was probably 20 composers working on that in all different capacities. And then now that's led to me working on some other really cool projects for Disney that I can't really talk about yet, but they'll be announced. The projects have been announced, but I'm just not supposed to say I'm doing it. But then that led into me writing songs for Blizzard. And, you know, Blizzard was a sort of a thing where it seems so far away because they're such a big company. But I had gotten a call from Derek Duke, who is their audio director, and he said that he had a recommendation from a couple of folks for me to do some songwriting. And I don't know who was that recommended me, but I would like to think that it was Russell Brower, because he and I had a few conversations about world building through the culture of the game. And this is something that I'm really fascinated by the culture in the games, by the subcultures inside the game's worlds. And so, like I told you at the beginning of this chat, what fascinates me about writing music is the storytelling aspect. And so the idea that you can create culture inside of a game by writing songs that appear on the radio in a game, or writing folk songs that only appear in the game's world, or writing theatrical pieces that help to further the story, that to me was really a dream come true. So I do almost more of that than anything else these days. So not only am I writing songs for Hearthstone almost every month now, I'm writing songs for other Blizzard IPs that I can't even talk about yet, because they're taking chances on their IPs by now including songs where they've never put songs before. So you're going to see some real surprises coming up in the next couple of years with Blizzard and where they put songs. That led to my relationship with Hypergriff and their massively popular game, Arknights. And for that game, I probably write 2 to 3 songs a month now, not to mention, 10 to 15 minutes of score a month for them. So I'm probably doing between 10 and 20 minutes of music a month for them in various capacity. But the idea now that I've sort of dug my feet in as a songwriter for games is it's such an honor for me. I'm working on 2 games right now that are musical theater games, that are games that are, and so we did this with this game Elsinore, because Elsinore was a really sort of a special project where I really pushed the developer to let me do this, to just write a bunch of songs. And I hired my pal George Sanger and some other people to help with the lyrics, because I thought it'd be a fun way to do it. But for these projects, these 2 games have songs in them like Disney movies, and the songs are part of the mechanic of the gameplay, but they're RPGs. Both of them are. And neither of them know that I'm working on another one. So now they do, yes. But there are a few different musical theater oriented games in the works right now. But these 2, one of them I'm writing a few songs for with another composer, and I'm also producing. And a very dear friend of mine brought me on. He's the score composer for that, but I'm being brought on as a songwriter / producer. And then in the other game, I'm doing everything. I'm producing and I'm actually helping cast and directing voiceover and doing a lot of different things. So this whole writing songs and performing songs and telling stories that way helps to achieve that dream that I of writing a musical and getting it on stage, or getting it in on TV or in the cinema or whatever. Because a part of it is that the lyrics do help tell the story. So sometimes I get some story points from the directors, and a lot of times I don't. They go, okay, well, we want a song that sort of is between these 2 characters, and what would they sing about? And then so I get to develop the relationship. And I've had some great writers meetings with the writers in the games where we talk about some of the dialogue from the songs, because I'll write the dialogue in the songs too, and they adapt that dialogue and the characterization and stuff. And so it's really fun to be able to explore all those things, you know, in sort of the wild west of songwriting for games.
That's so cool.
It's just crazy. I mean, I was going to say, did you get any briefs? Do they give you any sort of like rundown of what they kind of want, or is it a case of this game is going to be like this? Have fun.
Yeah, well, you know what? So with Blizzard, they write the lyrics, so I don't have to do any of that. Yeah, so
nice.
The lyrics a lot of them come from Christy Golden, who's just an amazing novelist, and her best-selling Warcraft novels have sparked the imagination of Warcraft players everywhere. And then some of the other writers that they have on staff there that write the lyrics. And then I'll take the lyrics and I'll adapt them in a way that makes musical sense, because oftentimes writers don't understand the prosody of songwriting. So that's something that obviously I do because I'm a songwriter. So I'll help them just sort of get the lyrics in line, which usually is very, it's more cosmetic than anything else. It's mechanical. I'm not really changing the content as much as I am making things work with proper syllables and singability and all that stuff, and maybe adding a line here or there that helps to bring a point home or something. Really mild stuff, but the majority of that comes from them. For Disney, I write all my own lyrics. For the musical theater game A, I am not writing lyrics. For musical theater game B, I am. So it just depends on the project, and it depends on what they're looking for in the story. And sometimes I do get a brief, and sometimes I don't. With Hypergriff, they are very kind to provide me with as much information about the characters who I'm writing for, whether or not the character is singing the song themselves, or whether or not the song appears in the game as part of the wallpaper, you know, the source music, so to speak. And through that, I just have learned to exercise different muscles. You know, if I am the dude, it's much easier than if I am like, actually, I take that back. If I am the dude that does everything, it's actually more difficult. I love having the lyrics because then it takes something off my plate and I can really focus on the music because I already know that it's a story they want to tell. But if everything I'm doing from scratch, it means that I got to just make sure that I you know, cross all my T's and dot all my I's and all that. It becomes a little more difficult when I'm writing and lyrics and production and arranging and all of that. And I love doing it all. I'm sort of a musical whore. I'm also a whore, but I'm a musical whore. No, I'm just kidding. I love doing it all. And so being hands-on like that, where I get to dig my teeth into all these projects and just, you know, devour every part of the process. I've learned so much, and I've also learned what I'm really terrible at and what I'm really good at. And I also know when a project starts, where I'm going to need help. I know who I'm going to hire, when I'm going to need to hire them, whether or not we do, you know, sheet music or not, and depends on the players. And I know like how to manage all that. So I've learned a lot about myself and my limitations, which is part of the reason why my workday is not so long anymore, because I actually make more money hiring people that are really good at what they do to help take stuff off my plate. I don't have to do everything anymore. When I was younger, I did. When I was younger, I had no money. I was teaching piano while I was writing. I was teaching like 7 days a week at one point and still trying to write music. And my wife quit her job when we had our first daughter. So then I had to, you know, really buckle down and work those two jobs, teaching and, oh, there's my cat's ass full.
I can see the eye of Sauron.
Stop! No one wants to see that. There was a long time there when I was doing everything, and you know, when I mentor now, I teach, and I still teach. I teach it at Biola University remotely. I have some commercial music students that I took for my buddy Jeff, who's my other guitar player. He runs that program, and he asked me to help out, and so I've been teaching over there off and on. And I tell them all the same thing, that there's no shame in having, you know, 2 or 3 jobs while you're trying to make this work, especially if they're music adjacent jobs. If you can teach, that's wonderful. And you should do it, because everybody needs a good, passionate teacher that wants nothing more than to become a successful music professional. And then I love the give back of teaching. I like connecting with the students. I also like meeting potential new collaborators. You know, I mean, I mentored Joris. Joris was my intern for a while. And now he is my most trusted collaborator aside from my business partner. He's also like a brother, and he stays with us every Christmas. And, you know, we really do have a lot of love for Yoris. He's basically family. So when I said that our team is close knit and we don't take very many people in, that's the reason why, because trust is so important, especially when we're dealing with high end IPs where there's, you know, millions and millions of dollars on the line. I just did a thing for Marvel that is coming out in November, and I can't, you know, I can't even say that I worked on it yet. Actually, in fact, I don't even know if I'm supposed to say that I worked on anything Marvel, but I did. So whatever. And you know, in dealing with that, you know, there's a lot of risk, you know, there's a lot of risk for leaking information and a lot of risk of like scripts getting out. And I had the scripts for the show because there's things there that I needed to see. And my role on that, I won't reveal now, but I'm not the composer of the show, but I did play a production role with the music. And I'll announce that after November when the show comes out. But, you know, having that material around is a huge liability. So, you know, having people you can trust is just really key to all that. I don't remember what you asked me. I'm sure it was something about music. You got another question in there, Jamie?
I was going to say, with a wide variety of projects like you do with video games, movies, theme parks and stuff, is there a different approach to each type, or is it pretty much a song's a song?
Well, there's a little of song's a song, but also like the format of the media and where it appears really determines the way I write the song, because the goal with any song is to get to the hook pretty quick. If we have a little bit longer time to tell the story, we'll spend a little more time in the verse and the pre-chorus and the wind up, the exposition of the song, so to speak. But a lot of the songs that I write, like especially things for Hearthstone, are about a minute to a minute and a half long. I don't have the luxury of doing a 3-minute radio number for that. So I get basically one verse and then a chorus, turn around and chorus. And that's been a pretty solid form for me on that. With Hypergriff, they give me a lot of luxury. I get 4 to 4.5 minutes sometimes. So I can really do a bang up job of twisting things around. And sometimes it's a little scary when you look at that page and you're like, fuck, I got to fill 4 minutes. What am I going to do? And, you know, people want to hear a variety of things in that time. I know I hear a lot of colleagues in the industry writing songs for these other games. And they spend a lot of time like sitting in one spot, like not to accuse other folks of being lazy, but I have an overactive approach to the way that I good. Just there we go. Zoom in on the nasty. He's like,
Daddy, what you doing? I don't turn that away from me now.
Just go like this for the rest of this chat.
I'm saving this for my Only Pause channel. Move, father.
That's where you do that, like what do they do on the YouTube videos where they zoom in on the cat face and like for a second it takes it all. That'll be the avatar for this interview. Anyway, but yeah, so my approach does change. I mean, like with Disney, when we're writing a parade song, that's really different than if we're writing a song for a ride, because the parade song, they want to get people singing and they want them clapping. And there's a lot of times the directive, especially from Tokyo, to like, we want claps here because we want people to clap along or make the melody singable, make it memorable. You know, if I'm writing a twisty, classical, dark Gothic number for a game, it doesn't have to be singable. It just has to be fucking cool. So there's things that I could do to make it cool. You know, sometimes you're writing a song that demands a big hook, that demands the catchy, memorable thing. And sometimes you're writing a song that just sort of gets you from point A to point B. So depending on the divisive nature of what we're doing, there's different vehicles and an entirely different approach. But that would go for like, you know, pop music too. If I was Trent Reznor writing an album, it's not going to sound like a Britney Spears record. If I'm writing a Justin Bieber album, that's entirely different than a Godsmack album. You know what I mean? Like there's just like a way that you like, I mean, Tool is not going to be like doing the same shit that like, you know, we hear on Kiss FM out here in LA. It's not the right, it's just a different mindset, but it's also a different structural approach. It's a different production approach down to the kind of microphones used on the drums. And so my approach, especially, and this is where I feel like I'm getting a little more refined as a producer over the years, is my understanding of the way that other people do their jobs is getting better. When I was younger, it was really all about me and what I could do, what I could bring to the table, what my songs sounded like, what my arrangements were like, and all that shit. But now it's like, how do I get my musicians to understand the tonality of what I'm doing? How do I speak the language where I know how to better ask for what I want. If I am going to do a funk drum session, I want to be able to tell my drummer what snare to use, or tell him what I liked about the snare that he did last time. And what, so I'm learning how to speak the language of the other musicians too. And I started to learn this lesson in my late 20s when I would have musicians come over to play. And they'd be like, don't write oboe parts in C sharp. And I'd be like, why not? They said, because we don't have those fucking notes when we get low and it sounds shit. And it's like too hard to tune. We like it in C or an adjacent key. And I'm like, okay, well, that's good to know. And like our trombone players that would tell me we can't play that legato because, we'll break if you cross over that line in the staff. And that's stuff I didn't know. So I became a more efficient orchestrator and a better musician as I humbled myself and took a minute to learn what other folks were doing. And that's part of like the team building thing too. As I've gotten older and a little bit more seasoned in my craft, I value my team more than anything else, because without that, I really don't have a ship to sail. So it's been really awesome to learn that I don't have to be the guy at the helm, all the time, that I can relinquish some of the trust, and that I can let other people help delegate that. So much like writing a song where, the approach is going to change. My approach to production in general and arranging and running a company has just matured, I feel, in the past 10 years.
Incredible. I mean, the closest I've ever got, Adam, to doing what you do is when I was a child, younger, I bought Music 2000 for the PlayStation. Yeah. Remember that game?
Yeah.
And I would write the same song. I could never differentiate. I could never do anything else. I'd always write the same thing every time. And I would listen to it over and over again. Hey?
It's probably a banger. You should have released it, Tom.
I mean, that was 21 years ago now, so that's long gone. But I could never seem to get out of that cycle of the same drum beat, the same guitar, I could never seem to get away from that. Yeah.
You know what? That's a common problem even for folks that do this job for a living.
Really?
We fall into those patterns and cycles all the time. And part of the struggle of being a composer and just the nature of this gig is that when you're producing a lot of work and you're doing so much so quick, you do fall into bad habits, and you can get lazy and just rely on old tricks. And so I'm always trying to figure out ways to get myself out of that circle, out of that loop, to kind of break the Groundhog's Day on a daily basis. And I'll go places harmonically and musically that are just entirely out of my nature. Like if you were to hear me sit down and just improvise on piano, there's shit that I would do that's just part of the fabric of who I am. And partially because I'm not that great of a piano player, but also because there's just places my hands go. When I sit down, that's just what I do. And as a composer, it's very much the same thing. So when I sit down to write music and I want to break myself of those habits, I'll force myself to go somewhere harmonically that doesn't sound that great to my ears, and then figure out melodically how to connect the dots. And so playing that little game with myself where I'm like, all right, well, this is something I've never done. It's like cooking, but throwing an ingredient into ice cream that you're scared to do, like a tomato. Like who the fuck would do that, right? But maybe you've made vanilla ice cream for 20 years with, now it's vanilla caramel. Now it's vanilla strawberry. Now it's, vanilla spice. But then you're like, fuck that shit. I'm going to throw a tomato in there, right? And see what happens. Why not? Because at this point, it's like anything I can do to experiment my way out of living in the same cycle of chords and melodies forever, it's just going to make me grow. I listened to work I did, 20 years ago. And even though, it's my productions come a long way, sometimes I hear things like, boy, I still do that. I still do that thing that I did back then. And why am I doing it? And I think there's part of you that just never escapes that process. So maybe you were writing that song because you are innately just built of those musical elements and you just never thought of doing anything. I mean, I think that's actually a very valid comment and a very mature comment when it comes to most composers figuring out how to have a long career and not write the same fucking thing every it's like Green Day. Like you listen to Green Day album, they wrote the same album 4 times and then they stopped writing albums. And I feel like a lot, Blink-182 did the same shit. They just wrote the same album over and over again. And a lot of guys do that. And it's hard to not do that. So I attribute everybody that has had a longer career than just a couple years to the tenacious nature of a lot of composers to kind of break free of that mold. And in their defense, bands like Blink 182 and Green Day, and I kid about that, but the reality is the labels didn't give them the freedom to do that. But those of us that work in video games, we're really lucky that that our egos don't drive our career, and that it's not our name that or our face and our stage performance that drives our career.
Yeah.
Because we all hide behind boxes and nobody really knows who the fuck we are until we say, "Oh, I did that. Yeah, that was me. Hi." And so people are like, "Oh, you did that. What else did you do?" And it's so funny because even that, like, if people find out that, like, "Oh, you're the guy that did, this one horror game I really like." Well, then you must be a horror composer. So we're going to hire you to do all the horror things. But then, like, another company goes, "Oh, you did the NBC Today show, so you must be like a news composer. So we're going to hire you to do news stuff only." Forget that you can do horror and forget that you can do rock or songwriting. So people get to know you for like one thing, and that can be sort of a tricky animal to tame too.
No, I bet.
Yeah,
I can imagine. So as I said in my intro, I think we should mention it. This Is Me. Obviously, it's standout credit because the song and the film were and are huge. So what exactly did you do in that song? What was your involvement?
It's so funny. I get asked about that one a lot because I think a lot of people still love that movie. I thought it was really interesting at the time because there wasn't a lot of musical movies. So when we first started working on that project back in 2015, I had just met Pasek and Paul through a colleague of mine, Chris Lennertz, who's a wonderful cinematic composer, and he's getting into some songwriting too. And he had, I had met him through my brother-in-law, who was a music supervisor, God rest his soul, who passed away of cancer a few years ago.
So sorry.
And that's why, this right here, this is for him. Anyway, so met Pasek and Paul, and we had done this demo round for Sony Pictures for this movie that never saw the light of day. And then they came back to LA a few months later, and this was late 2015. And we're like, we're working on greenlighting this movie. It's a Hugh Jackman movie. And we're having a really hard time getting some of these songs in line because Fox doesn't like the sound of what we're doing. Would you be willing to come in, get all your gear, come to the director's loft in Hollywood, which was Michael Gracie, move in your gear and work on the song with us? And I was like, okay. So I was like, Justin's I had so much respect for him because he's such a brilliant songwriter that basically he says jump, and I'd be like, sure, let's do it, buddy. So I packed up my car, got my stuff, went to Hollywood, and they played This Is Me on the piano for me. And I was shocked. I loved it. It was beautiful. Benj sung and Justin played piano. It was on a little brown upright in Michael's living room. And I just went to work, and I started producing the track, and I came up with the basic arrangement that day. And Fox loved it. And then they called me and said, would you be willing to come to American Studios and do a couple more songs for us? And then they actually moved me into Fox Studios music department. And so I worked there for a couple of days, producing a couple other songs and one that didn't make it into the film. But I actually produced more for that album than I was credited for. I didn't get credits for the arrangement, some other stuff, but that's just the nature of the business. So I didn't hear anything about the film. I'd submitted all my stems, done the whole thing. We actually had recorded all the background vocals that are still on the album and stuff. They supplemented, but they used some of the stuff that we had done back then. And then when it came to the final production on that album, Greg Wells took all my stems and everything, and he did the mixes, and the mixes are wonderful. And then they ended up adding some live strings to it, and they replaced the drums with a live drummer, but kept my parts. And so I was sort of the first one in the chain on that song. I effectively came up with the sound of it, I would say. And then it was produced later in the way that, they wrapped up the final production later. So the reason why they'd given me the production credit on that was because of the influence I had over the sound of the whole thing. A lot of things that you hear in that song were sort of like signature production things that I love doing just in general. And they kept all that stuff, of course, and they kept my piano part, even though they had it replayed by someone else. they still kept my piano arrangement and all my synth parts and some of the guitar stuff and all the drum stuff. So a lot of the production there was stuff that I had contributed. And then, you know, it's a team effort. So Justin did Justin and Ben obviously wrote the song, but Justin did the wonderful vocal arrangement that you hear in that song. And Alex Lacamoire, who is the producer of the soundtrack to Hamilton and some other stuff, he did the string arrangement on there. And then I think he also musically directed the live choir that they added and the drummer in the studio. So lots of cooks in that kitchen, lots of people that contributed. But I was just happy to be a small part of it. And I just got another royalty check for that last week. And I'm very happy to get those, let me tell you, when those come in. That's always an honor. So, and, you know, and I've worked with Pascal and Paul on a handful of other things since then. Didn't work on Dear Evan Hansen, but I worked on some other projects that they've worked on and stuff that still hasn't been released yet. And I value that relationship and them as human beings very much. And hope they still continue to call. You know, it's one of those things where you never know. People call sometimes don't. It's just part of the business.
So you did all that incredible work for The Greatest Showman. And then how was the concept of Sausage Party put to you? Because obviously food coming alive and then having a massive fuck off orgy at the end. Be like, yeah, sign me up. Let's do the tunes for this then.
So that's so funny too, because that also came through Chris Leonard's studio, because Chris was the score composer on that, and Alan Menken wrote that song. And the interesting thing about working with Alan is he does a lot of his own voices. So when I got that file, it was Alan playing piano, singing "fuck me in the ass," blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh my god, a whole new world. Fuck me in the ass. I'm like, oh my, this is amazing, right? Like, you don't want to hear your favorite childhood composer saying the word "fuck cunt," and like, it just what was I doing? So Chris had asked me to help produce that song with him and to do the arrangements and help them with the demos. So we hired some really wonderful demo singers, and I went home and I worked on it. Meanwhile, we're getting voicemails from Seth, and it's like, he's like, here's some new lyrics, and he's like super out of his gourd, just like singing different lyrics over voicemails, and then we'd have to incorporate the lyrics, and it's such a fun experience. I mean, the whole team on that was really open to our concepts, and about half of my arrangement made it into the film, and Kevin Kleisch did the rest of the orchestration, but they kept some of my orchestration in that. And so that was a lot of fun. And all my counter lines in there, all the counter lines that I wrote made it into the film. It's so funny because when you work at that level, like, that's just such an interesting level. That's where you have the least amount of control, because when there's other composers and arrangers involved, it ultimately becomes just like a big, like, collaboration. So you never know at the end stage what you've done that is going to make it into the final, and you still get paid, and you just have to learn that it's not about you, it's about the project. And so, you know, if they don't keep what you're doing, it's not because you're an asshole or your work sucks, it's because the director just felt like that wasn't right for that moment. And I had to learn that the hard way too, because my feelings got hurt a lot when I was younger, but now they don't get hurt as much. Sometimes I get bummed when something I'm really passionate about doesn't make it into a film or into a project. But I have to be okay with it too, because I just want to keep working. And there's another cat. And if I decide one day that I'm going to be the guy that's like, why not? You know, then people are like, oh, he's drama, we don't want to work with him. So I try to be easy when I can. And even when I get my dreams and hopes crushed, which happen, I'll stop fighting you two. My dreams and hopes crushed, I keep on trucking, because that easy breezy nature of being a good collaborator and an honest business person and operating with integrity in the industry has really been the thing that's kept me going.
So before we wrap up, I did want to ask about Seeds. Is this an animated musical that you created?
Yeah. So it was a story that I had originally written back when I was in my early 20s. And I was with Kraft Angle Management for a long time, for a couple of years. And Richard, who's just a really inspirational, wonderful human being, had inspired me to pursue my own thing. Because, you know, he was telling me, well, you know, Pascal and Paul, Dear Evan Hansen, that's where they're going to really make good money, because they own everything. And he was like, you got to do something that's just for you. And I was like, you know what I do? I do so much for other people. I was going to get back to seeds. So I came back to it after putting it down for like 10 years. I rewrote most of the material. I rewrote most of the script. It was essentially fresh. So over the course of 3 months, I rewrote like most of the songs with the exception of like one, which I mostly rewrote, added a bunch of new material, tuned up the script, tuned up the characters, and started just to make animation for it with the express purpose of gaining the attention of folks. And I did. And when I left Craft Angle, I had found a literary agent who I really like at Verve, and he's sort of taken the helm on helping me pitch that. So, Chris over at Verve is really tapped into that industry, and Ben Familietti from Disney gave me some of his time, and I had some really awesome heavy hitters advise me in a lot of ways, including Richard and some other folks. So I would love to see Seeds come to life. I had some offers to have it produced on stage, but I didn't want to give the premiere to a theater that was indie. I want to make sure that the characters are who, represent different nationalities and folks on the gender spectrum and sexuality spectrum are represented in the right way. So, actually having an Asian character played by an Asian person is important to me. Things like that, especially when it's not just like, oh, you're Asian because he put an Asian person in the cast. No, it's because that's the character. That's part of the character. And so those kind of things, it's important to me that those things are honored. So we're waiting for the right theater company to come along, and I'll keep making it because it's so much fun. The TikTok has over 14,000 followers on it right now. We're going to still keep making stuff. My artist just sent me 2 new pieces that she built, and they're really wonderful. And I'm going to edit some new videos to them in the coming weeks. Now they have a little break, and hopefully get that stuff put out. But, we'll keep doing it. We've developed a really nice fan base, and they do talk to me often about the cast and the characters, and they've asked for the script, and I've gotten some great feedback. So I'll keep pursuing Seeds. It is important, I think, for any artist to have some passion projects on the side. And in the past, they were just like, it was me just doing stuff for free, and I was calling it passion projects, but it was like working on someone's game because I liked the game and they didn't have any money. So I was like, oh, it's a passion project, which it sort of is, but really it's not a true passion project unless it's your passion that's fueling the project. So I decided that I was going to do it, and here I am. And of course, my attention to it ebbs and flows with my paycheck, because sometimes I do really have to work a lot and I don't have the time or energy with the kids and the family to devote to it. But I'll keep plugging away until it's released.
Yes, please.
Beautiful. Tom, have you got any more questions?
What I'm going to do is, I know Jamie's got to head off to work, so I'd like to have you back on, Adam, because I've not hardly touched any of the questions I've written. I want to do a part 2, if you're all right with that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Phenomenal. Yeah, I've hardly touched what I wanted to ask. There's so much I want to ask you. So
that's my plan. Divert me from the hard stuff. I'm glad it worked.
So yeah, I'd like to invite you back for a second time round. We'll sort all out, obviously, through emails and everything. But I hope you'd like to come back on, if that's okay.
I'd be honored to. Thank you so much for having me. Let me know what your schedule's like, and we'll get it aligned. Over winter break is great, or you want to wait till next year? It's good too. Whatever, you just let me know.
We'll do. Jamie.
But before we do let you out of here, though, we do like to play a little game with our guests. Yes, if that is okay.
Yeah.
We call it the quick fire round. We ask you 5 questions and you answer them as quick as you can. The topic is very difficult. It's you, basically. Oh. So, first hard-hitting question. What is your favorite pizza topping?
Bacon.
Oh, yes.
We like.
Amazing.
Your favorite joke to tell?
I can't tell it on here, but it has. Oh God, it's so dirty. It's so bad. It was a joke that I was told in college, and it had to do with a guy losing his virginity in a glass eye on the table, and it's terrible. And I won't go on. I won't go on from there. But
okay. Yeah. Your go-to karaoke song?
Oh my gosh, anything from Billy Joel.
Oh, nice.
One word that people would use to describe you.
Frantic. My wife said headstrong. She says extra. She says extra. She's probably right.
That's just a different scale as when the coffee jug wears off.
I know, right?
And last but not least, who would play you in the movie of your life?
A much uglier version of Zac Efron.
I'm getting Jake Gyllenhaal vibes myself, but yeah.
Are you flirting, Tom?
I'm trying.
Oh, Adam, this has been absolutely amazing. Have you got any plugs, social medias, websites that people need to go and check out?
Moonwalkaudio.com or adamgubman.com. I'm on all the socials. You can find me just about everywhere. I just want to end by saying that I couldn't do this without my awesome team and family, and I value them, and I value all the people that have supported us and given us work, all of our clients who are extremely loyal. We're grateful for all of them. So support their games, products, and behind, I want to end by saying this: behind every political scandal, behind every media blitz trying to damage someone's career, there's just a bunch of people trying to make cool shit. So we can look past all of that capitalist crazy media insanity and just know that everybody behind the creative process are a bunch of folks like me that just really love what they do and are passionate about it and want to keep doing it.
Beautiful.
I love that.
That is beautiful. There is no better way to end this wonderful conversation. Adam, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you and your time as well. Thank you so much for taking time out.
My pleasure, Tom, Jamie.
Yeah,
thanks, guys.
Definitely arrange a part 2.
All right, cool. Have a great weekend. Cheers.
You too, man. Take
Cheers.
it easy. See you soon.
Bye.
Thanks, Adam.
Hi, I'm Frank Guglielmelli, and I'm the narrator for some wonderful audio dramas from Syscast, like Marty and Mars, Bounty Hunters, and a great part in Val Toby, with much more to come. You can find these programs on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, or head over to our website, www.syscast.com. We are excited to announce that we are now affiliated with the Chronicles of Podcast with Tom and Jamie.